Hey, so I just came out of the Deconstruction Movement live premiere, and my thoughts are super jumbled, but hi. Let's talk about religion, queerness, and New York City. Micah Callari is an artist very near and dear to me for two primary reasons that I can boil down to single word descriptions: rawness and versatility. Something I value in artists is the ability to try on different genres once in a while, or incorporate wildly different inspirations in their sound. That's why I love artists like Underscores and 1-800-PAIN, who always seem to be exploring different sounds and influences. The sonic, rhythmic, and instrumental evolution from Fishmonger to Wall Socket is just mind-blowing, and I wouldn't shut up about it if you gave me the space not to. This is something Micah does also. Across the deconstruction movement, Micah travels through so many genres and styles that I could barely keep track. I counted piano ballad, rock, emo, I think, dance pop, new metal, punk rock, indie rock, pop punk, reggae, drum and bass, and dance punk. Now, you're probably thinking,
Oh,
oh brother, this
brother!
girl is doing too much. And you might be right. But you know what I have to say to
We
that?
don't care. Let me tell you something. We don't care. Jerry!
It's awesome. Argue with your mother. I love when artists totally disregard genre lines and basically do whatever will best serve whatever goal they're aiming for with a particular song. I can't pin Micah down by any genre because she's not a genre-based artist. The title musician is the best descriptor I can think of for her. Micah has mastered the very idea of music as a concept, transcending genre with the understanding that genre is best used as a vehicle to convey an emotion as opposed to establishing a brand which you are then beholden to. That's what I mean by versatility. Now, on to rawness. Across the three projects I deem to be her most important, those being I Will Get My Act Together, Gasping for Air, and the album that is the topic of this video, and even in previous works, Micah displays a very straightforward and uncut approach to her songwriting. In a world full of songs with nothing burger lyrics on one end and layered triple entendres and beyond on the other end, I find this deeply valuable and charming. Micah is very clear about her intentions, and it's very difficult to misunderstand the meaning of her songs. That is why I am 100% certain I've gotten absolutely nothing wrong in this video, and I will be taking no criticisms. In fact, I'm muting comments because I don't need them anyway. The deconstruction movement borrows its name from faith deconstruction, the phenomenon of evangelical Christians in America reevaluating their Christian values, some doing so to the point of renouncing Christianity altogether and turning completely atheist or agnostic. The album itself explores topics of religion in a couple of its songs, and there is an overarching theme of breaking the shackles of religious dogma. But I honestly believe that that isn't even the most significant part of the album. This is an album more about deconstructing the self than it is about deconstructing religion, although religion is still a huge part of it. What I hear when I listen to this album is a compelling story of radical self acceptance, of breaking down and building back up again, having discarded all of the pieces that no longer serve you or the person you wish to become. Taking it all apart and putting it back together into something better than it was. Deconstruction, reconstruction, restoration. It is a microcosm of one of the running themes of the world we live in today, and a challenge faced by today's youth and anyone else willing to take it up. We refuse to blindly follow the teachings of our parents and other authority figures, but unlike the rebellious youth of past generations, we are increasingly disillusioned with the alternatives. While the youth of our parents' generation turned to things like celebrities, pop culture, and political affiliations, the youth of today, myself included, see these things as just as obsolete, as they crumble under the weight of our simple demands for basic human decency. We are living in a time where more people are realizing that everything could use a bit of deconstruction, from gender to the way that we treat famous people.
You shut the fuck up!
Also,
This album encapsulates all of that if you're willing to listen, and it does so from the chaotic perspective of one young woman. I'm hesitant to call it a coming-of-age album, even though that feels like the most accurate label in pop culture's library of album tropes. This album is more than that. It's a 15-track journey into someone's psyche as she is actively taking a sledgehammer to all of the obsolete bits in her life with manic glee, and you can definitely hear that in the sound design. Clocking in at exactly 56 minutes, the Deconstruction Movement is a trip and a half. And who doesn't love a little adventure? Hitting rock bottom is a horrible feeling, but it comes with an odd silver lining. The sober truth that there is nowhere to go but up. Once you realize what needs to be done, once you've been forced to reckon with all of your problems that may have been building up since childhood, if you're able to push past this, if you're able to push past the despair, you're able to see a vague path towards something better. You're one leap of faith away from something, anything, better than where you currently are, and sometimes when you feel stuck, what you need is some adventure. Such is the theme of the album's first track, Adventure, a 3-minute ballad that perfectly sets up the tone of the rest of the Deconstruction Movement. I could write another descriptive paragraph about the overall sonic experience of the song, but why would I do that when I could just simply say, this song is beautiful? It is, truly. The chord progressions make you feel like you're embarking on the biggest journey of your life, and boy are you nervous about it. Perhaps you're making a big move to a new city or even a new country. There is an undertone of hope intermixed with the overtone of uncertainty, which I find very significant. It's a brilliant song, structurally and harmonically, and stands out as one of the only low-tempo songs on the record. The calm before the storm, or perhaps the bracing for it. It has just about everything I would want in an intro song, and the way it builds up lyrically is just chef's kiss.
And if I get lost walking back from the show, I still know that it's gonna be fine.
ah, shit.
Micah only came out a few months ago, but she's already shown us that she has mastered the art of the transition. The segue from adventure to showstopper is one of the craziest I've heard in a while. This is where the album really starts to kick off, with a relentless rhythm section, in-your-face lyrics, and the opening line, "I just deleted the past." I mean, what an opening statement. For a full 3 minutes and 24 seconds, Micah stands on business. If Adventure was acknowledging your problems, Showstopper is taking the first step towards confronting them. I love how the two songs work together to convey that change in tone, that light switch effect where changing from contemplation and melancholy to this very strong resolve to do something about it. And Micah's energy on this song is just immaculate. I am of the strong belief that this album actually has two intros. Adventure and Showstopper are pretty much like a double intro dream team, and they do a phenomenal job of setting up the rest of the project. With Showstopper in particular feeling like a summary of every key point that Micah makes on the project, even though it's mainly just a song about deleting her old YouTube channel, which is crazy to me. But I'm not going to dwell on this song because we have so much more to cover, and I'm not sure how I can do this without it going over like half an hour. Now be warned, the rest of this video is going to hit a lot better if you listen to the album first. So this is your chance to pause the video. If you haven't already, go listen to the album in full and then come back. I will not be covering every single song in this video. Rather, I will be going over groups of songs as they relate to certain themes in the album that I've analyzed. Some songs will be left out, and this is not me ranking certain songs over others. This is me choosing a handful of the songs that I feel best represent the overall themes of the album. All of the songs are good, and it hurts to have to leave out some of my favorites, but I will be mentioning some of my favorite songs at the end of the video anyway. And again, listen to the album in full before you watch the rest of the video. Or don't. It's your life. And I'm not just going to tell you how to live your life. I mean, who would do that anyway? That's crazy.
We wanted to hear what God was saying through His Word, through this servant. We wondered and prayed, would God connect us in ministry to a like-minded pastor and brother like that?
We got kicked and punched by the pro-abortion people. We got kicked and punched by the lesbians, the homosexuals, the anarchists, the communists. And right there was...
Let me tell you, there is nothing like a queer awakening to send you on the path of deconstruction and radicalization. I wasn't raised Christian, but I was raised around enough Christians just to realize how prevalent the ideology is, especially in America. And some of those beliefs did rub off on me in ways that caused me to question my own spirituality and overall lifestyle. And that is part of what sent me on a long journey of learning and relearning the colonial origins of Christianity and its role in European imperialism. But that's a whole other thing that I believe is best reserved for an analysis of the song Jeez Louise by Underscores. However, much like Jeez Louise, Micah Callari's The Girl in the Mirror off the Deconstruction Movement is a 6-minute, almost 7-minute long nosedive into religious deconstruction motivated by trans identity. First of all, this melody is so fun, like it just latches onto you, like dun 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 dun. It's so good. Like this album is just full of fun melodies, and I wish that musicians did stuff like this more. It just feels like something that isn't done very often anymore, but maybe that's just me. I'm just a huge fan of like whimsical production, and this scratches all of the right parts of the brain. It's just so campy in the best way possible, but I'm getting way off topic now. Using religion as an excuse to uphold oppressive binaries? Kinda cringe. Have you considered like maybe deleting your account? The first half of this song is pure chaos, raw power, and just full of that relentless, in your face, you cannot get rid of me type energy. And the middle section mellows out a bit, becomes a bit more contemplative, a bit more reminiscent of its sister track, Angel Numbers, the third song off the album following Showstopper, which I believe is the only other song besides like Before I Blinked and Adventure that isn't like super high energy. Angel Numbers explores faith in a way that I have not seen faith explored before, with lines like,
My angel numbers follow me around, and the sound of old hymnals ring when I spot them out and about.
and
I really do try my best to talk about it with respect, but damn, I'm not in your debt, and I stand by everything I said.
And something I've always found interesting is this idea of respecting someone's faith, which is a good concept on paper, but what happens if someone's beliefs doesn't respect your existence? What happens if someone's beliefs say that you're going to a very bad place just for the basic act of not agreeing with them or practicing the religion of your ancestors? If you're raised in that faith and you begin to ask questions, that is one of the worst offenses you can do, because questions are the devil's playground. And such an environment, I would argue, is a hellscape for people who are neurodivergent, especially people like me who are autistic, who learn early on that asking the wrong question at the wrong time, according to some people, is deeply offensive and disrespectful, even though we were just trying to understand why something is done a certain way. Even when we are trying to be respectful, we are accused of disrespect or lack of faith simply for asking a question like, how did Noah fit all his animals on the boat anyway? A simple question that any child would ask when with that story, and yet that child could be yelled at for asking a simple question. It's kind of messed up. And if you're like me, who had a dinosaur kid phase, or an insect kid phase, or a marine biology kid phase, you probably know that there are so many species on the planet, some yet to be discovered. And you're trying to tell me that Noah was able to get all of those species on the boat? I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic again. Despite walking away from a faith that was borderline abusive to her, Micah still retains that she wants to be respectful of the religion, which I find commendable. Although this sentiment only seems to hold up for about 4 more tracks until she stands on business. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that she gave up trying her best to talk about it with respect, and I'm here for it. This song is as much of a coming out anthem as it is a deconstruction anthem. And the way that those two work in tandem cannot be overstated. The way it begins as an initial outburst and then mellows out into something a bit more diplomatic, only to return to that initial wave of energy and defiance. Perfect in every way. 10 out of 10 song, a perfect song. I wouldn't change anything, actually. And this song functions essentially as a midway point in the album, where I think it's important to note that barely any further mention of religion takes place in the album. So I would say this song basically resolves the religious conflict within the album's themes, so we can move on to things that are a bit more secular, or worldly, even. It's the first verse of Gut Feeling, the song that precedes Angel Numbers, and is the 4th track on the album. And granted, it does not come after The Girl in the Mirror, it actually comes about 2 tracks before it. But I really wanted to just get the religious stuff out of the way first so I could get to the fun stuff. Gut Feeling actually kickstarts a 3-track story arc that tackles themes of fame, celebrity, and navigating the oftentimes very toxic environments of internet cliques and music scenes. In fact, I would go as far to say that it actually jumps those themes in an alley and then proceeds to beat them up and take all their money. And their shoes and pants and underwear.
What do I look like from your point of view? Should I just sing it? Do you want some personality? I'll do whatever you ask me to do, just for you. I'll change all of my mannerisms, bend to your mentality.
While Gut Feeling veered into punk rock territory, Miss Hyde is a dance pop banger with orchestral backing and one of the greatest breakdowns that I have heard from an album so far this year that explores the lengths that celebrities will go to just to be liked. What I find especially interesting about this angle is that she isn't calling out other celebrities. She's calling out herself and reckoning with her own inauthenticity. The whole song is about her own tendency to distort her own image to fit the tastes of those around her, and the internal conflict and resentment bred by that tendency. Even utilizing one of the most iconic symbols of internal conflict via the title and the hook of the song. The agreeable and easygoing Dr. Jekyll and his evil alter ego, Mr. Hyde, the culmination and embodiment of all of his unsavourable characteristics. A walking representation of all of his shame and guilt, molded into a being of pure evil and destruction. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how being a celebrity can do a number on someone's self-image and sense of identity. You can begin to feel like being liked and how many people like you, how many people adore you even, is essentially all your worth is based around. And you can begin to go to very extreme lengths to ensure that your self-image and your success is maintained, even if that means sacrificing your true self in exchange for a fabricated persona designed, curated, tailored, marketed towards the masses. This song features some of the most brutally honest lyrics and one of the most fun breakdowns. I said this already, didn't I? Well, it's true. Another great breakdown. This song is an anthem for the state of the modern hyperpop scene. And while I don't like calling it that a lot, I feel like it's appropriate here.
I think that my 5 minutes of fame will be over any minute. I am merely a spectacle that will never be forgiven. So what you say? Now move out. You got turned away from making you a profit. 30,000 hours of my life, I think I lost it. I'm a sunk cost fallacy in the flesh. If I put another track in this track, it might be the best. I am not a symbol, I will not be treated as such. I'm just a man with an agenda, yeah, they can't catch up.
This song contains one of my favorite features, one of my favorite genre switch-ups, and some of my favorite lyrics in the entire album. It really takes the ideas of Gut Feeling and Miss Hyde and just mashes them together and creates a Frankenstein's monster of a track that somehow manages to be a rock song, a hyperpop song, and a nu metal song, all in three, which is also great in addition to the song's optics, given that all three of those themes are known almost infamously for being full of culture vultures. This song does not hold back any punches, and I love it for it. I love Micah for it. I love Gas Mask for it. It's a great song and a great closer to a 3-track arc about celebrity and fame, and especially how it can impact smaller artists and smaller music scenes.
What's a love song without the romance? If I knew how to, I'd give true love a chance.
When I was younger, I thought I was aromantic because I never understood why romantic relationships were so paraded and prioritized by society, and why people around me were so obsessed with them when there are so many other things to obsess over, like vampires and spiders. Vampires and spiders are really cool, and around the ages of like 10 and 12, I could have talked your ear off about them, and I guarantee you the last thing on my mind was getting a potential girlfriend or boyfriend. I wasn't thinking about romance in the slightest, and I still don't really think about it much to this day. I still consider myself demi-romantic because for the last 21 years of my life, I've only ever fallen in love once with The Hustle. However, unlike Micah, I do believe in soulmates. This song is important to me because there are so many songs about romance, but not a lot of songs about not wanting romance, or a lot of songs about what to do with yourself in a world that is so romance-centered when you experience little to no romantic attraction yourself. That's really all I had to say about this song. It's not anything like super huge. I just think that we need more songs like this. And yeah, this is just like a brief little thing. Now, on to the next major chapter. I did a bit of moving during my childhood, but one thing remained consistent. I always managed to find myself surrounded by some of the most annoying people, communities, and places imaginable. Even then, I am almost certain that all paled in comparison to being born and raised in Florida. I have a lot to say about tight-knit, middle-of-nowhere communities, the types of cities and towns where you see the same places, same people, experience the same interactions every single day. Although one thing I have learned from living on a small campus is that it isn't so bad when you actually like the places, people, and experiences. Unfortunately, a lot of places where we grow up tend to suck.
I always end up at the same place, same place. I always end up at I'll always end up at the Love and Walk, comic store, arcade, smoothie place, coffee shop, grocery store, garden, and my workplace. Green Christian, Woodland, First Faith Baptist, everybody moving is a motherfucking fascist.
Sheltered environments can be suffocating, and outside of a few choice underscore songs, I haven't really heard that expressed in a way that really resonated up until Carter 2006. The frustration with the monotony of your hometown, the yearning for a complete change of pace, and all of the targets of Micah's criticisms, especially the overabundance of religious institutions. Cars 2006 and many of the tracks that follow really capture the general vibe of living in a sheltered environment. But this is only the beginning.
Cause it's been nearly 2 years since the final time you messaged me. That last exchange, you seem like any other typical day. Don't forget we have something to do. I do. Now you're good as dead. I had a funeral and everything the messages said. I keep on searching for but anything, a clue that you left in the past. It didn't occur to me that call would be our last.
About 8 or 7 years ago, I was friends with a girl I'm going to refer to as Nike. I knew Nike through some other friends, and we all played video games together like Minecraft, and even wrote a few books that we thought were peak literature at the time. One day, Nike's very conservative parents came across a picture on her phone from one of our other friends. I believe it was a picture of a cake that our friend and her dad made that said, "Hail Satan" on it or something stupid like that, and they completely flipped. From that point forward, Nike was no longer allowed to speak to any of us. They took away her phone, her computer, and heavily monitored her internet use. They thought that we were a bad influence on her, especially since a lot of us were obviously a lot more progressive than they were. Before I Blinked tells a similar story. Story of losing an online friend to the drastic actions of strict parents, and it was the first time I had ever heard a story like that told in a song before. After the first time I heard this track, I had to sit for a minute. Something about this song feels like a cultural turning point, not just for the space it occupies, but for the greater musical landscape. It's setting a precedent and exploring a topic that is very unique to the modern age. And while we are no longer strangers to the concept of internet music, that is, music heavily steeped in online culture, a la Penelope Scott and 100 Gex, I believe this adds a new dimension.
We were just talk more. I didn't really mean to ignore when you said they fucking tore off your door.
Usually the medium of internet music is used as a vehicle for quirky fun or relatability, and don't get me wrong, that's awesome too, but this isn't either one of those things. This is something a lot more advanced. This is the type of song that my generation will be playing for our grandkids in an almost religious manner, going on about how kids these days just don't get it. And I mean, hopefully they don't. I'd like to think the world will be full of more responsible parents by then. Central to this album is the need to escape, as exemplified in songs like Adventure and Cars. Songs like The Girl in the Mirror, Before I Blinked, Miss Hyde, and Control Freak serve to remind us what Micah wants to escape from. A hyper-conservative bubble that stifles free thought and robs her of joy, whether it be through her gender expression or through her relationships, her own self-destructive habits, behaviors influenced by the prospect of fame and status within the online community she's established herself in. These are things that a lot of people deal with, especially in this day and age, but not all of us are base enough to be honest about it.
At least you tell us the truth. He's only in this for the money and fame, and doesn't care if it's uncouth. I should know from experience. At least the music rocks, but his ego remains untamed.
Glitter Nails is the second to last song of the album and my personal favorite song of the album, period. I could listen to this song for hours, but if I did that, I'd be an emotional wreck by the end of it, so I refrain from my own well-being. This song is such a cathartic culmination of the last 13 tracks, like the perfect final climax before the resolution on track 15. The lyrics are powerful. It's reminiscent of something a lot of autistic people struggle with. Being the friend in the group who fades into the background, the one people forget about sometimes. It can start to feel like nothing would really change if you weren't there, and there's always that persistent feeling that you are the problem. Micah does such a phenomenal job of putting this feeling into words, even if that wasn't her intention. All our lives, we are made to feel as though there's something wrong with us. We spend too much time in our own worlds. We're too honest. Our interests are too obscure. If you grow up faster than you should, you're praised for being gifted or mature for your age until you're not. If you don't grow up fast enough, you're lazy and childish. No matter what you do, the outcome is the same. You are robbed of agency and credibility. When you fail, it is expected, and it is always because of your own incompetence, your own defect. And maybe you just need to work on yourself a little bit more. Learn how to human more well. Exercise some independence and prove to those around you that you can make good, responsible decisions. Despite everything else, a trip to New York City was the main catalyst for this album. An exercise in independence, venturing into uncharted territory, a journey of self-discovery and self-reflection, because after all, once you hit rock bottom, maybe all you need is a little adventure.
Why did I keep walking? I should have known when to turn for the subway, but I kept walking. Midnight, pitch black, and I just could not stop my legs. I could not tell where I was in the slightest. Was it my brain testing me? Was it my mind? Was it just myself? Did I want to see if I could truly navigate New York City by myself, or was I just trying to make myself fail? My
we've reached our destination. I'm almost sad it's about to be over. I've had a lot of fun talking about this album for 30 minutes. It didn't even feel that long, honestly. That's the thing about destinations, isn't it? You can get so caught up in getting there that you don't really think about anything else. It can seem like once you get this particular thing or finish this particular task, then everything will be okay, and there will be no more tasks, no more things you'll want. But that is never the case. Life will always have problems and challenges to overcome. When you solve one thing, another thing arises. That may as well be a scientific law at this point. It's easy to think that one defining moment is going to change our lives completely, because that sounds simple and easy, and the idea itself is comforting to our small human brains. That's why we write our stories that way. Why you always see that sort of linear progression on TV and in your favorite books. Unfortunately, life tends to be the exact opposite. Non-linear and chaotic. A constant existential threat to our imaginary sense of order. But nothing is ever set in stone. There's no rising action, climax, or resolution in the stories of our lives. Aspects of our identity, like our interests and personal goals, are constantly shifting, and we have little control over how they change. What we think is the end of a story is probably just the beginning of a new one. That challenge you poured your entire being into overcoming is replaced with a new one before you're even aware of it. The story goes on. Just be sure to stop and celebrate your victories along the way. Comic Book, the last track of the album, is my second favorite, and probably one of my favorite Micah songs of all time. It has my favorite chorus on the album, as well as some really solid verses that I can't help but at least hum along to whenever they come around. A beyond satisfying conclusion to a jam-packed album, both sonically and thematically. It makes for a nice rehash of the album's main themes, with one of the verses saying, it seems Micah is on better footing with God now, even though it's not much. Despite the uncertainty of the New York trip, she still maintains that she learned a lot from it, making the adversity worthwhile. In her words, New York rocked, going home sucked. I relate heavily to the topic of escaping into stories. Whether it's a piece of media I'm invested in or something I'm writing myself, I tend to spend a lot of time in my own head, for better or for worse. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like to go on a big road trip with my friends, travel the country, and just go wherever we wanted. Leave all our crappy hometowns behind. One day I might still do this, but I'm just too busy now. I think a little escapism is necessary from time to time, as long as it doesn't take over your life. There's no harm in immersing yourself in a good book or a TV show, or the more literal escapism of a month-long vacation. We all need that sometimes, and often it's those things that can give us a fresher perspective with which to approach our daily lives. And the story goes on. Deconstruction, reconstruction, restoration. This album has been life-changing. Enough to make me record a 40-minute video about it, which is something I've never done before. I think it's important that art like this is made. It isn't every day you come across a project with this much love and care poured into it, made entirely independent of any label backing. That means no industry resources, no professional team, just a group of passionate people with a computer, some microphones, and a dream, telling stories and experiences that are rarely centered, but I think should be centered more often. I hope in making this video I can contribute to the change I want to see. Be a part of Micah's Deconstruction Movement. I think a lot of people would benefit from learning about this album. I know I've benefited from knowing about it. I hope you do, too. I genuinely have not felt this way about an album since Food House, and Micah Callari might be the closest thing we have to another Fraxium music, even though they are both vastly unique in their own right. I try to veer away from comparing artists, but I'm not comparing them based on shared characteristics as much as I am comparing them based on how different they are from their peers. They have their own distinct ethos that drives them to go above and beyond in every aspect of their work, from production to visuals, in a way that feels fresh even in the niche and experimental scenes that they occupy. Their swag is different. I hope as they both gain more popularity, we will see the emergence of more artists like them. Alright, that's all I have to say. Favorite songs, Glitter Nails, Comic Book, Woe Is Me, the Aromantic song, Knife in Hand, Girl in the Mirror, and Control Freak. Yeah, that sounds about right. Listen to the Deconstruction Movement. And like, subscribe, click the bell. What else am I supposed to say? Stay hydrated. Yeah.